Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
Cradle me more. Hold on to me more. Say something sweet wholeheartedly. I feel so tired. I won't ask if it's true. You be my rest. Say something new. Cradle me more. Hold on to me on the Mobius Couch. A time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts oversee the world of comic books, comic book movies, manga, television. I believe that's it. I believe that's all we cover. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today's lyrical
toy comics.
And
toy
comics. I forgot. We do G.I. Joe and Transformers.
Like, you're missing
comics.
one.
We did Duke. I am gonna make you guys do G.I. Joe.
We do. Look, if those comics
revisiting G.I. Joe.
If those comics exist to sell toys to children, we read those comics and we talk about it here. Ladies and gentlemen, today's lyrical intro is, of course, Come Back Down by Men I Trust off of their new Equus Caballus album. It's incredible. One of the best albums of 2025. Please go listen to that. But we're not here to talk about that because we don't talk about music. That's not something we talk about on the Mobius Couch.
No, it's not. I mean, inevitably we do a little bit, but
right.
It's not the purpose.
But today we're going to talk about a trad comic, all right? Trad is short for traditional. We're talking about a trad comic. This is about Superman, DC. This is as trad as it gets. We are talking about Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale's Superman for All Seasons. Do I have to pause for the image? Okay. Before we get into the comic, let's introduce your hosts before we get into the comic. I am Alessandro. And joining me on the couch are Patrick.
Hello, Alessandro.
Hello.
Patrick's mom made it for him.
Patrick's mom.
My mom made it for me. Well, it's my name on the YouTube.
I see. I understand.
I
understand now. Yes, our nicknames.
17 people that watch us on YouTube will be like, oh, that's what they're talking about.
Hey, more people are starting to follow us on YouTube. More people are watching the podcast.
I don't think so. Whenever I look at our YouTube shorts, it has like one thumb up, and then I also give it a thumb up, so it's 2 thumbs up.
The shorts? I'm talking about the podcast.
I just don't think many people listen. But that doesn't matter because also joining us is Joe.
Hey. Hey, Al.
Hey,
Patty.
Trev. Hey, Trev.
Call me Trev.
Call you Trev.
My friends call me Trevor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Superman for All Seasons. This is a 4 large issue standalone sort of arc book that came out in 1998, written by, of course, Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. We've done Loeb and Sale before. Did we do the Long Halloween? We did Dark Victory.
We did Long Halloween. We did Dark Victory.
We did the Long Halloween and Dark Victory, which, of course, both Batman properties. But now we're talking about
I want to do more of them over the years. I definitely want to read Spider-Man Blue. You know how we were like looking for a Spider-Man book to read? I think we should do that at some point. There's a series of Marvel characters with a color attached to it that they did. Like Hulk Gray and I think it's Captain America Red. I could be wrong. But Spider-Man Blue is a really good book.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah,
we should we'll be doing some more Loeb and Tim Sale at some point, you know?
Wait, they did a Spider-Man book?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
They did Spider-Man, they did Hulk, they did Cap. I think there's more of them than I'm even aware of, but like I think there's a few more. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Or maybe they didn't do the Cap one. I don't know. At any rate, they did a few. They did Spider-Man and Hulk. I don't know. There's a few
Everybody,
others.
let's find our center here. We're talking about Superman.
We're talking about Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale, and they're a myriad of amazing works.
But let's pull ourselves in. So this comic, again, if you all want to read, if you have not already read it and you want to read it, you can get it at your local library. You can get it at a TPB. It's 4 large issues in one. It came out in 1998. This actually came out right after Long Halloween, which was 96 to 7. And they did this right after. And should we get right into it?
Overall takes,
I believe.
I like the overall takes. I like to do that.
Overall, I'll just start. Overall take, I adore this comic. I cannot say anything bad about it. I thought it was amazing. I read every page of this. I lapped up every page. Tim Sale is a god who walked among mortals. He is
could not have said that better.
He is the greatest. obviously, as we talked about the Batman comics, he was great with that. This is a completely different aesthetic than
Mhm.
that, and
Yeah.
it's still he nails it
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
impeccably. I cannot say enough. I mean, obviously, Loeb is a great writer. The dialogue and the narrative are well constructed. All of that is great. I am in love with Tim Sale in every way that word means. He is
Yep.
amazing, and this he
Can't
does
agree
just
more.
peak work on this comic. I loved it. That's my overall take.
Yeah, can't agree more. Whereas Long Halloween, first of all, I love this book to death, and it was one of the ones that I was just like, why don't we read? You know, new Superman's coming out, the movie by James Gunn in about a month, and I was like, we should read some of these classic Superman stories, like leading up to that Superman movie, maybe. And I'm glad we settled on this one because we almost did All-Star Superman. I guess that was the other one that was on the deck, and I love that story as well. But like, this is quintessential Superman for me. So I love this to death. I think it embraces like the honesty that is Superman in such a way that's very hard to quantify in words. Like it's very hard to describe, but like when you're done reading it, you just go, "Oh, what a wholesome, joyful ride." There's not like a second of it you're not like, this is not, no, that part wasn't that great or blah blah blah. You're just like, this is amazing from top to bottom. That being said, his art, I mean, like Tim Sale just, I mean, like Al said, he just crushes out. And as opposed to Batman, Long Halloween and Dark Victory and stuff, like, or whatever he does, Batman, there's a heavy use of blacks and inks and shadows and light and like all that. And it's very well done. And there's a lot of Gothic noir going on, and it's just pure light everywhere. And there's these breathtaking, like, double page spread scenes of like, cornfields or the city or just, Clark's front porch or whatever it is. And it's just the detail that's put into every little piece that's sitting around. It makes it like almost like in a way of like set dressing. It's like he makes it feel lived in, like rumpled boots. It's not just like pristine, like bed sheets. It's rumpled and there's things thrown everywhere. And there's things tacked to the walls. And like, it's just, I can't describe it enough. I love it so much. It's so good.
I do also, sorry, real quick, Patrick, before you go, I do also want to shout out Bjarne Hansen, Jose Villarrubia, and Mark Chiarello, who did the colors. Also, the colors are amazing in this as well. Like they really stand out and obviously they work together with Tim Sale and like it works together perfectly. But I did also want to call out the color work is really, it just pairs beautifully with the narrative.
There's some truly beautiful sunset scenes, like I was, kind of talking about. But
just to piggyback off of that comment, like that was one of my favorite parts of the art was the colors, because when he's moving at super speed, it's just red, yellow,
it's just
blue
a streak
blurs. And I really liked how they would combine it. When he's flying, he almost looks like Cannonball from the X-Men, where his lower half is just a blur,
it's just
and the upper half is
behind
him.
him.
But I mean, plus when everything else said, I loved this book. I loved it. I read it 3 times because viewers, we tried to do this 3 times, and I got sick, and then Joe got sick, and now this is the attempt at doing this podcast episode. So I've read it 3 times in the last month and a half. And each time I kind of like it more. It's the complete opposite of our last episode. I feel like Thunderbolts was all action, crazy pacing, no character development, very surface level. And this was just like pure character study of who Superman is and where he came from. And the breakdown of the book, it's 4 issues. They're each told from a different POV of people that are well known in the Superman mythos, but it's from their point of view of how they feel about Clark or Superman, which I thought was fantastic. Issue 1 is John Kent, and I don't think I've ever gotten John Kent's POV on anything ever, and I think it was my favorite issue out of these 4. I mean, Superman's doing crazy stuff, but he's not like fighting Doomsday or breaking Zod's neck and doing Zack Snyder stuff. Like, it's just him. He's 99% just focused on saving people, and he's like 1% focused on like ominously glaring at Lex. Like, I like how he would just show up outside Lex's window every once in a while
and just stare at him,
and fly away.
Just hover and stare.
What are you? I'm watching you. What the fuck are you doing? I'm watching you.
And I actually had the edition that came out, I guess, just a few years ago, or maybe just a year ago when Tim Sale died. And Joe, kind of to your point, when you're talking about how detailed the backgrounds were, the front of it, there's a few people who kind of pay tribute to Tim Sale, but Jeph Loeb, He says his artwork was about creating atmosphere through shadows and angles and expression, and believe it or not, desks. He drew the best desks. Desks that told you what the character valued, as if Tim was an art director in a film.
That's what I'm
he loved
saying.
comics, baseball, the Beatles. Yeah, it was like
every single person's desk in the Daily Planet
yeah.
has like shit on it, and like it's just like it's so crazy.
And it just I like that coming from Jeph Loeb, because it just kind of really spoke to how I think they were a very good team, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
This was a delight to read. I loved it.
Okay, well, shall we get into the book? Well, so very generally, this book is about kind of the origin, like young Superman to finding his way as Superman.
Yeah, it's like less Smallville, the WB show, though, and more like I'm about to leave home. You know, like it's like he's on the cusp of being Superman. He just doesn't quite know what he's going to do yet, or kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's 4 issues, and each issue is a season. And so issue 1 is spring, and to Patrick's earlier point, it's narrated by Pa Kent Jonathan, who is old and fat and ugly in this. He's not a Kevin Costner in this one, I'll say that. They just, anyway, I don't want to talk about the physical appearance of Jonathan Kent anymore. But so he narrates
They are aged.
They're very old. They look like his great-grandparents or something.
Yeah, they look like his grandparents at least. Like it's.
But I think that's done to kind of
like they found him in the rocket ship when they were 45. You know what I mean, kind of thing. Like they're old. You know.
But I think it's done intentionally just to kind of juxtapose like his physical specimen, alien perfectness to their kind of being old and human and all that. So originally, they didn't have narration in the comic. It was actually an editorial oversight that kind of told Jeph, like, you got to add narrative bubbles.
What?
It was in a little tidbit here. And apparently it was Jeph really didn't want to do it because he thought it'd be boring to have Superman narrate everything as it's happening to him. And Tim said, like, well, why don't we not have Superman narrate? And so
I wonder when.
Like,
I wonder when that happened. Like, when did that? Like, was that like still in script format? I wonder.
I think it was early. I mean, it sounds like it was sort of early-ish
because it's so well written to like what's going on. Like, which is again, I mean, Jeph Loeb's a writer, so not shocking or anything. But like, you know, it just so well fits with like the tone of each issue and what's going on that it'd be crazy to like think of it not being
the
there.
whole book for me is the narration. I mean,
because each one is, you really get such good insight.
I love the Lex one. But on the Jonathan Kent one, the thing that I do love hearing his perspective, but one of the when he's describing the rocket ship, it sums him up so well because he's talking about one night we heard the whistling sound. It's the loudest thing you ever heard come out of the sky. And we drove to the North Field and found some kind of rocket ship. To this day, I can't think of any other way to describe it. And he goes, inside it, there was a baby. Like the judgment of Clark's parent, or Kal-El's parents, rather, putting him in a rocket ship and sending him to space. He was just like, that's insane. You know, like, kind of like what parent puts, I think he even says it maybe at some point, but he's like, what parent puts their kid in a rocket ship, you know, kind of thing. And never mind what kind of fool puts a baby in a rocket in the first place. Like, I was just like, interesting. I mean, it's just a subtle thing, but it was just like, I really love hearing Jonathan Kent just be like, fucking idiots. You know what I mean? Like, I love that he's here and I love him like my own son, but like, what the fuck? You know, like, kind of thing. I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. And so this issue takes place it's sort of like a senior year.
Yeah. It's like,
he hasn't graduated
he's basically graduating and getting ready to leave. Before we get into it, one note I wanted to make, because it then comes into other comments I'll make. The edition I have, which is just the standard trade paperback, the little acknowledgments at the beginning, Tim Sale writes, for Norman Rockwell and his love of a vision of Americana that resonates through its limitations.
There's some very Rockwellian poetic images in this.
Yeah, and I thought that was very poetic generally, but it's this issue especially, and even later when he returns to Smallville.
Yeah.
But the Smallville stuff especially is just very Rockwell, very kind of nostalgic Americana.
Wholesome Americana.
Wholesome, like a fishing rod stacked on top of a football school banner. stacked on top of a report card, like that kind of 50s, just very aw shucks.
Like the diner that they all hang out at. Like it's so like I mean I think there's literally a Rockwell painting that like mirrors what, or rather Tim Sale is mirroring what that painting. You know, when they're all sitting and Clark and Pete are from the back and they're facing the counter, you know, kind of thing. That shot.
Yeah, and I bring up that quote because one panel I wanted to talk about is Clark's room. And again, this is a, for those of you who can't see it, this is a panel early on where Clark is reclining on his bed in his room. And this is the pose that through various other issues, we see Clark do that same pose at different environments. And I want to get to that later. But just going back to the Rockwell Americana part, his room is almost, so I bring this up because his quote about the limitations of America and Americana, because his room is chock full of a telescope, a tie, football, a calendar, you know, a baseball hero, all this stuff that's American.
An old-timey baseball player with stripy socks. Like, I mean, it's like, it's as classic baseball as you can get. I mean, it's not only just a baseball player, it's like classic baseball player. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Right. And I want to bring it up. I want to bring it up because I feel like Sale and Loeb, through the kind of thought bubbles, sets up this really nice dichotomy of like the wholesomeness and the kind of shuckness of all this American stuff, but it also almost feels like oppressively stuffed. Like it's almost choking Clark, like this existence of just being this, and smothered in his room by all this like material normal shit and the non-satisfaction that it brings Clark. So it kind of brings that angle of it too. It's almost like forcing humanness and Americanness onto him, and he's really more than that, you know, because we know that he's going to be the Superman and he's going to be a hero.
Yeah.
And this is all stuff that really doesn't matter to him, like in a real sense. It doesn't give him meaning that he has a baseball glove in his. It just seems like almost a play acting level of too much set dressing on what Clark is, because this isn't really what he is. It's like trying too hard to be normal.
Yeah, he's trying
as
to
opposed to what he really
so
is.
I think and that's kind of what this issue is dealing with. It's like not only Clark kind of trying to like, he's about to move out, he's about to go out into the world, but he doesn't quite know what he's going to do. And then it's also like Pa and Ma Kent like kind of wrapping their brains around like what, and more Pa obviously because it's narrated by him, but like wrapping their brains around like what's going on with Clark and like how he's changing and, you know, kind of thing.
That's what I liked about it was Pa Kent's like really trepidatious about how strong Clark has gotten on all the different powers, and it's to the point where he starts like really hoping that he did a good job as a parent, because he's realizing that like if his son ends up not being who he hoped he raised him to be, like how much terrible things he could be capable of. And to Al's point with the art being all the Americana stuff kind of smothering Clark, in that same scene he's eavesdropping on his parents talking about how he's, you know, otherworldly and super powerful. And it's almost a little bit Brightburn-ish, that movie where Martha makes a comment about if he can't hear us, can he? And it's like, yeah, he definitely can. It's all the way this issue starts and the way it ends is just two like really great.
Well, Pa says he's changing the boy. He's different now. And she goes, "What do you mean, Jonathan?" He's like, "We both knew that one day we'd have to face this, Martha. I just didn't think it would be this so soon." And then like they continue to talk about it. And she's like, "You don't think he can hear us, can he?" And then he's like, "The boy's asleep. Anyways, his bedroom's clear on the other side of the house." You know, like they're just like, "There's no fucking way." And I'm like, "No, he can't."
When Pa Kent's saying that he's changed, it's a close up of his face, and this space is behind him, all the stars, and his glasses are reflecting it, almost as if he's like this cosmic entity. And a few issues later, they're the same exact shot of Clark.
Yeah, and Clark does the same thing.
In this situation, John Kent's like coming to deal with the fact that his son has grown up and changed, and then it's like
there's a lot of visual notes. Yeah,
yes,
that carry over to the next issue, and like to Al's point about the bedroom, like the next scene that we see Clark laying on the bed is the cityscape, and he doesn't have anything in his room.
Right,
and it's just like real quick before we really move into the issue, because this is like the first few pages, but basically like Jonathan's talking about Clark, and he's like, "But that's Martha for you, stubborn as a mule, choice is set in her ways. Wonderful woman, marry her all over again tomorrow if that's what she wanted." And then basically Clark helps him pick up a rock, and he's like, "The boy's got a lot of Martha in him, let's just leave it at that." Like kind of thing. Like he even talks about his son in this like, I don't know, ancient, old school, patriarchal way. Like they're very patriarchal and matriarchal. In their like the way they operate is very like old school, like regular
but it's
family kind of.
But it's like sweet though. Like Pa Kent is the classic kind of. He seems closed off emotionally, but they have some very tender moments, and he's a very good father. And it's done in a very good way. But they are
the thing that they skipped over all the years, like when Clark was in middle school and he got beaten with a belt and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
For not stacking the hay. I mean, they skip all that.
And it didn't work anymore, and they're like, "What do we do?" Yeah. They switched to like power tools.
But to Patrick's point, I do think what makes this issue so effective is it's really.
I'm gonna get my chainsaw.
Yeah, well, right. No, but what makes this issue effective is they kind of play off it's about an alien becoming a superhero, but it's also about stuff that it's also
about an alien becoming a human too.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's about normal kind of human life steps that, the idea, for example, to Patrick's other point about the parents thinking, oh, is he going to turn out evil or not? Will he use his powers for good? Is the normal parental feeling of, at a certain point, you've raised the child. You just have to step back and hope that you did a good enough job for them to find their way. Same with the idea of he's going to leave Smallville and go to a big city with a big job. Like all of these are human experiences, but it's just also they subvert it a bit because everybody reading and the writers know that we're really also just talking about a superhero. Like he's going to the big city to become Superman, not just to have a bigger job. But again, they relate all of it to just sort of human level interactions.
There's such a subtlety in their character too, but it's so like layered in there. Like Martha just sitting quietly, knowing Jonathan wants to talk about what happened that afternoon and not saying a word, and then Jonathan just says, "Goodbye, Martha," and she's like, "Oh, he's ready to talk now." And like then she's like, "You want to talk about what happened this afternoon?" Like that kind of like quiet power in the relationship that Martha holds, like as the patient, overly psychotically patient, probably with both of those men in her life, like that she has to have is like, it's not on Front Street, but it's there if you like look in the subtleties of like how she's acting. And then like there's some interactions with Lana in the kitchen where like Martha's like, "Well, he's a boy, he'll talk, or he's a man, he'll talk about it when he's ready," like kind of thing. Like she just like gives him these little advice notes that are just like classic like old school grandmom kind of way of thinking.
Yeah, I do want to hit quickly the tornado scene because this is another thing Patrick mentioned earlier, but you brought up, Pat, the contrast between Zack Snyder Superman and this.
I was going to bring this up. And
the tornado scene is synecdoche for that because Zack Snyder's Superman is basically someone who really does not want to be a hero and does not want to stand out and just wants to be left alone. And we don't have to get into all of that, but we all know this Snyder Supes just doesn't want to be a hero, does not care about any of that. And
I mean, that's Snyder also version, the lesson he was taught by Snyder's version of Pa Kent, though.
But that's what I'm getting at. But in Snyder's version of the tornado attack, Clark doesn't save anybody. It's his dad meaninglessly sacrificing himself to the tornado god for whatever reason to save a dog or some shit. And he tells Clark, "Don't at all costs, do not be who you are.
Don't reveal yourself to the world.
Do not be a hero at all costs."
Yeah.
And and it creates this angsty whatever guy who then murders Zod after 300,000 people die.
Don't bring that up. I hate that. Chris Reeves also murdered Zod. We watched.
I don't care. Anyway, all I'm just saying is that's the Snyder Superman. In contrast to this, Loeb and Sales Superman, all we see of this tornado is he saves the gas station attendant. Like he goes out and saves somebody. And his parents say,
and
go
not
out
even
and
on
be who you
purpose. He
are.
just gets flung into the tornado, and then he's like, "Oh shit! Oh, that guy's in trouble!" And he swoops down and saves him. Like,
and his own parents just say, "Go out and be who you are. Go out and use your strength. Be a hero." And I just love how this,
but also be the man we raised you to be, kind of thing. Right. And I think I love that.
Yeah, and I wanted to use this as an example of just, this is a Superman who wants to be a hero and wants to help people. And after 10 years of Snyder Zeus DC, Snyder Superman.
Snyder Zeus
is a different thing. No, but after 10 years of Snyder Superman and Snyderverse, it's so wholesome and heartening to read a Superman who cares and wants to.
Just to really hammer that point home, because it's Pa Kent's narration. His narration's overlaid Superman saving this man from tornado, and he says there are so few things a person can be really sure of, but I believe in the wild trouble of that moment, our son became a man. And it was like, not only was like, it's so different. Not only was Snyderverse Pa Kent like literally telling him, no, I'm gonna die before I let you reveal your secret or whatever bullshit. And in this, it's like, this is when Clark like made that decision himself to save as many people as he could, and he did it, and that's when he became a man. And that's
it's like the tornado event like opened up in his mind what he's meant to be doing,
right?
Like, as opposed to the opposite of that.
It also is what like made, I think, John Kent feel better about. He felt more reassured at that point in this issue that he had done a good job with like, not that he deserves all the credit, but Clark is going to be okay and he's going to be a good person. And I just fucking loved this issue. I loved the little bit when they're going into Smallville and he's with Lana Lang and Pete, and Pa makes the metaphor about how corn can grow too fast before the
I was just gonna bring that up.
And how Smallville was like what laid down Clark's roots, and they do a good job of showing how Clark knows every single person in Smallville and he understands that they're all people that are important. And I think that really kind of lays the roots for why he, they keep asking throughout the issues, why does he save people? And it's like, I think he understands each life is important and he wants to save as many people as he possibly can. And I've loved this issue.
I love Lana is a great character in this, especially in the 4th issue, which she narrates. She really kind of comes through. But she's just an amazing friend.
Yeah,
Superman.
She really is. And I like, in stark comparison to the WB Smallville show, she's a lunatic.
I love. She is, but she's my Lana. It's really jarring for me to see Lana Lang with red hair.
Be a balanced human being.
Oh yeah, Lana's always had red hair, except for in that show.
Not Kristen Krug.
Yeah, the Lana in the Reeves movies had red hair. Lana in the old comics has red hair. You know what? They don't do a ton of it in this. They take it rather seriously in terms of like the silliness that are the old Superman comic books. However, the lighthearted nature that were those comics exists in every page of this. Like, it's not like, he's fighting a big monkey or something, or Crypto's running around, but like, he has a dog and he treats it like he loves it. Like that. There's little things like that are like in the book just as a whole that kind of like, it kind of reminds me of the old comics where he would just be like, I'm having a crazy adventure. Jimmy Olsen grew 300 feet tall and he's ripping a bridge in half. Like, it just doesn't, none of it makes any sense, but you're just like, but in this, like, and nothing silly like that happens really, but it's the lightness of it, the feeling of what's going on is there.
I also do, as an atheist, I do like the scene in this issue where Clark seeks answers from his priest, and the priest just only has bullshit to tell him. I do love how Clark is saying, what if somebody had the power to change? And he's like, well, the Lord doesn't. He goes, no, but what if one man could literally do? And the priest just says, well, I'm going to go talk to Susan Smith over there.
Well, you figured it out.
Yeah.
I wish I had $1 million. Hot dog.
Yeah. Anyway. So I do, as an atheist, I do love that little scene there.
I did.
So this issue. Oh, go ahead, Patty.
I was just gonna say, I thought it was weird how Pa Kent really doesn't like Pete Ross at all.
He doesn't. He hates the shit out of him.
For like,
well,
why?
I don't like Pete Ross much either. He just
Yeah,
well,
annoying,
I think Pete like represents that like. I mean, I'm gonna ruin this because my dad used to call my troublesome friends this. I think it's from like Leave It to Beaver or something. It's like from some old show. But
I know the neighbor. I know what you're talking about.
The neighbor kid that was like annoying and always getting them into trouble.
Buddy Hackett, is that the guy's? What was
I don't know.
Boner.
Buddy Hackett's
Boner. Is that Boner?
Boner?
That's Growing Pains.
That's Growing. I was gonna say that's Growing Pains. I think. I don't. Oh gosh, man, I can't believe I don't remember it because my dad literally would be like, "That guy, he's a blah blah blah." Like he would use that as like an example and be like,
"I know my mom.
My
mom does the same thing." I'm gonna try to find out.
But I think that's all it is. I don't think he like literally hates Pete. I think he just like sees Pete as like this. That kid doesn't have a head on his shoulders. It doesn't know what he's doing in life and blah blah blah. Do you stay away from him, Clark? And then he's like Clark's best friend, and he's like, God damn it.
No, Eddie Haskell.
Eddie Haskell.
That's
the
Eddie
kid's
Haskell. Name. Yeah.
It's an old Leave It to Beaver thing, and it would just be like, oh, that Eddie Haskell got us into trouble again, or what, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, he was sort of like a ne'er-do-well or a Tom Sawyer type who got up to hijinks.
He was just the kid that was like, "Hey, let's light fireworks off in the mailbox," and then they would be like, "Okay, let's do it," and they'd all get in trouble and like, "Eddie made us do it," or like that kind of bullshit,
No, but yeah, Clark's friend is definitely Eddie Haskell, 100%.
Also, they did weirdly enough. I'm referencing Smallville so much, but like when the scissors go in his hair and the scissors shatter, like, at what point?
I agree. Yes.
At what point does metal break that doesn't injure the human being that's holding it? Well, like they would stab Clark with a knife in the Smallville shows, and it would the knife would break and shatter against his skin, and I'm like, that would sooner jab backwards through the person's hand and slice their hand open or something.
Yeah, because if you think about
it, the metal would literally shatter.
Yeah, because if you stabbed a brick wall, it wouldn't shatter. It would just
it would just
bounce back at you.
Yeah, badly. It would. Yeah, it would move through my hand would hit the wall, and then the knife would go backwards and slice my hand up.
A scissors wouldn't shatter on the hair; it would just not cut it.
It would just go king, king. Yeah. I mean, I know it's a comic.
I mean,
the barber
or maybe they're just
crazy
shitty scissors.
Yeah.
Like maybe
or
they're
maybe he just has maybe his shears are 78 years old, and they were old anyway.
It could be. I did like the Lana Clark. I know that the Clark flying with his love interest is a tale as old as
that's
time.
That's a classic. Yeah,
but I think
that's the Martha Pearls breaking and falling down the sewer. Like that's the.
But it's
although I'll never ever understand when it's like Peter Pan style and they're just holding hands and Lana's also like horizontal flying. I'm like, how is her body? Her core strength must be crazy for her to be.
Yeah, dude. She does planks.
So. She's just constantly falling, and he's like, I mean, think of it like skydiving. Like you can kind of glide a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I had Superman tugging me along, I could totally fly. Like
it's also
just putting your hand flat out of a window when you're driving, you can kind of get lift. And
yeah, but also Pat,
if you've body,
I'm just saying, like you could say they're theoretically also falling. He could fall and glide them forward.
Well, then why didn't in World's Finest? Why didn't Supergirl fly Robin like that? Why did she carry him by the armpits?
We talked about
I don't know because they constantly have to fall to do it.
She wanted
to emasculate him, probably. You're right.
Yeah, she wanted to.
No, but Patrick, to your point, I don't know if you've ever seen Cirque du Soleil, but there's people that can like hang on to a bar with one arm.
I know. I'm aware of people like that exist.
Yeah,
but that's a lot of them.
Maybe Lana just does a lot of planks. Yeah.
I don't know. With Superman's strength, would it be that hard to kind of like loft somebody up a little bit every once in a while?
Yeah, by their wrist. Yeah, dude. It would like snap their arm off.
Would it be that hard?
I don't think it has anything to do with his strength. It's her strength, unless he's got telekinesis and is like holding her body.
Let's look at for the YouTube can see this. Listen,
they look like they're going down to me.
No, it looks like she would be slack and just hanging off. Like that wouldn't work physically. That would not work.
I do like the art with how their feet are just kind of like floating outside.
I love that. Yeah. Like when he's talking to her before he even says it. Oh, and like, anyway.
That is, Rob Liefeld would be proud of those feet and how little biological sense they make. He would be happy with that.
I can't believe you brought up Rob Liefeld in the same context of Tim Sale.
Hey.
Yeah, and it's kind of disgusting. So let's talk about the tornado, I guess, a little bit more, minus Zack Snyder comparisons. Aside from the tornado happening and just lifting it, like, so he's out in the field, basically, and he gets caught in it. But unbeknownst to us, like, right now, his parents are running for cover in the cellar or whatever, like anybody would normally do with a tornado in Kansas. But after he saves the gas station attendant, I forget his name, I mean, they introduce him in that one scene.
It's Mr.
Morris Klug. Klug? I don't know. Anyway, his name's Morris. At any rate, after he saves Morris, and like they're standing there, and it's just the town is just decimated, and all he really did was save Morris. Like, he didn't like do a lot. I love how he just goes.
You gotta
I know, but it's just that's the point. Like, he just figured it out. Like, oh, this is what I should be doing. But like, you know, the town's decimated and I love one that Clark is satisfied by just having saved that one human. He's like, oh, that's what I should be doing, you know, kind of thing. But he immediately goes, I've got to get home. And it's just like the tractor's in the fucking roof of the barn and shit. And he's yelling for them. And Pa Kent is just like, no need to shout, son. They can hear you in the next county. And then she's like, Clark, we thought we'd lost you. So glad you're safe. Like, because they saw him get sucked up into a fucking tornado. And they know he's strong and everything. But like, you know, maybe they don't comprehend like how quite strong and invulnerable he is, kind of thing. And I just love the like hugging his parents thing, and them going like it's all, and him going like it's all over now, everyone's safe, like kind of thing. And I just love that. You know?
Yeah, and also later in the next few panels, Clark says, you know, I could have done more, and so you can see the kind of spark.
That's the conceit,
for him of, oh wow, you know, I could really do more.
He's like, I saved one person, and I had been out there actively helping people. I could have saved so much more, you know, kind of thing. Like that, and that's what like triggered him going.
Yeah, you
like,
see the light bulb go off of I could be Superman. I could just help.
And
everybody.
I think it's that also is what triggers him going, I need to tell Lana, because like if anybody needs to know, it's her, you know. And I love that he doesn't tell them, because like it's not until like issues later.
Yeah.
Where Lana's over at the house and he's like, she knows. I told her a long time ago.
That's a great scene.
Yeah. I put it on the YouTube for YouTubers. It's there, but like this one panel of the croquet set in the yard, and they're all like in the backgrounds, kind of like having a picnic, and it's kind of like towards the end of, you know, it's after graduation, and they're all kind of like hanging out. The only reason I did that is because this is just such a perfect example of how the contrast between like the Long Halloween and the Dark Victory books, and how Tim is drawing this versus that, because like there is heavy shadows on the ground, but it's just a different color. It's like light, it's like turquoise green versus like bright yellowy green for like the sunspots. And it's just the way he's still using shadow and light just as much as he would normally would. He's just doing it such a different way from the Batman books. And it's just beautiful. It's like one of my favorite panels, and it's just a fucking croquet set like on the ground, like by a tree while they're at a picnic table. Like nothing's happening. It's just like it's like his graduating friends at a barbecue. Like it's.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I don't know if it's a national feeling, but I was like that very much kind of encapsulated my memories of graduating from high school, like the actual graduation ceremony, and then, like everyone
bunch of friends hanging out,
graduation parties, but it was also like a lot of the parents would be there and all that kind of stuff. And I thought this issue did do a good job of having those few moments of what it was like, transitioning out of your childhood and kind of going into, you know, the next phase of your life.
Yeah, and one last art note I wanted to make too, because this changes basically from this issue on, but Sale really draws Clark's face is a baby's face.
Oh, like, he's very baby
like
faced.
A baby child's face on a teenager's body, and that changes because then in the ensuing comics he has a very adult. When he's Superman, he has like a super austere expression. He looks like an adult, but in this kind of initial issue, he's
very gentle. His eyebrows are turned up a lot, and he has this gentility to him.
Let me try to find a good picture of this. But he has like, here's a good one. Like that's literally a baby's face on a teenager body. And so I just think that's a cool effect of really highlighting how innocent and sort of young he still is.
Yeah.
He's also, much like Bruce Wayne in the Long Halloween books, he's also enormous. Like,
He is a giant man.
I know Mom and Pop Kent are like tiny old people, but like Lana is tiny.
Everybody.
He's tiny around. Like Pete's like a normal sized ish dude, I guess, or a kid, but like he's just gigantic next to him. It's just he's huge. It's hilarious.
They couldn't. I don't know if or how they had sex, but they couldn't. He would split her in 18 pieces. She comes up to his knees. They could not.
They grew up in the wholesomest of wholesome places in all of America. You think they're having high school sex?
I don't know. I mean, the priest obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't think he's got a good handle over that community because he's a hack. But
no way.
Okay. So he
says goodbye to his parents.
Yeah, let's get on to issue 2. So this wraps up, and then we get a little vignette, a quick little snapshot of him.
Look at that! Look at that sunset! Look at that sunset!
I love that. I love that panel.
Yeah,
I love that whole
favorite
thing.
No, go ahead, Pat.
It's just again, I just really loved. I think if there was no narration, well, just the character moment as well with Pa Kent, how he probably does that every single day, and Clark's like, he's like, I'll never get sick of this. This is, it's just, I fucking loved this issue. I never thought I would like Pa Kent so much, especially after the Smallville version in real life became a huge asshole, but really redeemed the character for me.
Well, I mean, like, and I just mentioned it, but speaking of the colors, man, like, I mean, look at the lines on this page. It's so sparing. It's just Clark and Pa, and there's like little tiny lines for grass and like a little tiny fence in the distance, and like that's kind of it. And it's basically just pure color for the sunset and everything that's going on, and even the shadows in the grass, like the demarcating like where they are in the grass and stuff. It's all color, and it's just done so well. It's amazing.
Well, I don't think we've talked about it enough, but even in the later issues when he comes back to Smallville, just the Kansas Prairie panels are every one of them is beautiful. There's one later where he's embracing Ma Kent, like in the middle of the wheat field or whatever.
Wheat field, yeah.
And it's just beautiful. It's unreal. The art is so good.
The cityscape itself too, though. I mean, in stark contrast to the Batman books, it's just bright and sun
we'll get
and light.
It's interesting,
Well, Metropolis is, a nice.
It's introduced right here. We get to see. I mean, so we're introduced very quickly in the end of this book to him becoming Superman, but 2, like Lois and Jimmy and Chief.
Lois, can we spend how long do we want to talk about Lois? Perfection.
We'll talk about Lois in the later.
We spend a good hour just talking about Lois.
She's very Selena Kyle.
Amazing. I love all her like 80s woman big shouldered power suits and shit that she's got on. She's amazing.
And then we're introduced to Trevor, a small child who apparently runs around on the rooftops and falls
on the rooftops.
Hey.
Not even the rooftops. The ledge of his window.
Of a skyscraper. He's like on the 20th floor.
He's just running around, hanging out with a cat.
Well, he's chasing a cat. Yeah, with his baseball mitt. He's chasing
that means he's outside, like 300 stories up, just chucking a baseball around.
Can you imagine
his parents?
But I bet you, as he's out on the edge of a skyscraper chasing a cat, his dad's thinking like, all you can do is raise them and hope they make the best decisions they can. You got to let them run free.
You got to let them run free.
You got to let them make their own choices
of the city. I mean, it's very much like it is. Metropolis is painted in a very like futuristic way with like sky bridges everywhere. It's not like uncommon for people to be like walking around from like place to place, but it's like
he's on a legit ledge.
He's on a ledge.
He's on the ledge of it's not a sky bridge. He shouldn't be up there.
There are a lot of like floating walkways in Metropolis. It kind of reminded me a little bit of almost like futuristic in-Cal type city looking.
Yeah, honestly, as I read this, though, that Trevor child might be on some spectrum.
I was about to say, it's irresponsible I mean, I love that panel of Superman saving him and saying, he says cool costume, and he says, thanks, my mom made it for me. I love that.
But then he leaves the child on the ledge.
I'm about to say, he just leaves him on the ledge.
But also the child is saying,
he trips and says, help. First of all, no one's out there, Trevor. You're going to die.
And then he almost died.
He's like, I got you. And he's like, wow, cool costume, thanks.
Yeah, wow, cool costume. He might be like lightly autistic or something. I don't, he might
Maybe
need deeper help than what Superman can offer.
Well, Lex ends the issue by saying it's going to be a long, hot summer while frowning in disappointment or like unapproval of Superman as he flies by.
I like how they went with like orange Gene Hackman hair for this Lex.
Oh man,
yeah, that's old school comic Lex. You know, like too. It's not just
breaking my brain. The Lex stuff broke my brain. We'll get to it, but
there's a long run in the '80s where Lex had like long orange hair and a beard. You know. I think it was a John Byrne era.
All right, well, let's go to summer. The next issue is summer.
Oh, I think I remember. I think Lex gets cancer from having a kryptonite ring, and then he has like a clone body, so it's like a younger body.
Oh,
the old Magneto,
if I recall correctly. Yeah, the old Magneto trick. Summer kicks off with this is just full on. This issue is full on Superman and Metropolis doing Superman stuff.
Yeah, this is just like, peak. Like he's here, he's being Superman. This is what it's like to live in Superman City.
Mm-hmm. But it's also
Lois Lane by Daily
by
Planet
Lois Lane. And Al might argue this. My comic book love of my life. You know, like there's no character that's a female in all comic books that I like more than Lois. Like you might do a Catwoman more than Lois, but Lois by a mile.
I'd go with Starfire.
Yeah, I'm maybe more of a Catwoman person, but this Lois she ranks pretty.
You know what? I mean, I'm going back like a few years now, but like the last like 5-6 years of Lois, they've used Lois very, very well in the last good chunk of modern comic storytelling. There's some really good stuff with her, and in very recent stuff.
I like the she moves with her shoulders forward, like with this swagger that I just like about her. You remember Conor McGregor, like the UFC fighter?
Yes.
Like he walked with like his shoulders forward. Like she walks that same kind of way.
Let's not compare Lois to Conor McGregor. Please, for the love of God.
I'm saying she walks in a similar kind of swaggery way. She moves in that way.
They couldn't be representative of more different personality types.
I'm not saying they're the same personality. I'm saying they move in a similar.
There's narration from Lois that she says Superman period, like hard stop, and then she's like, I was the first one to call him that. It wasn't easy coming up with a name for someone who shouldn't exist. And then like I love it, she's like, other people try to call him like the Metropolis Marvel, like other papers, and then Jimmy said maybe we should call him Mighty Man. And then I really wanted to call him Too Good to Be True kind of thing. Like, and I love that, like, it's like classic Lois reporter cynicism of like, where's the chink in this armor? This is unbelievable. Like somebody that has all these abilities that's actually doing good in the world and not secretly a piece of shit is like something that's the hardest thing for her to overcome. It's not with
this with her narrative, they really nail this like 50s kind of skeptical journalist vibe. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I call him Too Good to Be True. You know, it's kind of like a zinger, but also has that skepticism in there. Like her narrative nails that perfectly.
Yeah, well, I liked her 3 rules for reporting. How she said, "Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see, and everything you write."
Yeah,
which I don't think most reporters these days.
I think that's a very good. That'd be a very good thing for all reporters to still like have written above their desk.
Well, I'm not sure reporters exist anymore. We just get our news from Facebook headlines. It's not, that's a whole different story.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's get into it. I do want to call out. Look at the cake.
Yeah, that
Superman in this panel. So this panel where he stops a giant missile. I mean, he's thick. Like with boy. He's a thick boy. Thick boy.
Well, in classic Superman fashion, a missile is randomly pointed at the city.
It's just,
and then he flies and just touches the front of it and shoves it into space.
Can you imagine how horrifying the world would be if like a missile hit a major American city every other day?
Yeah.
Because that's insane. Metropolis. I mean, that is the world they live in. Luckily,
I do love so the missile explodes though. I mean, again, it's like even though it's narrated by Lois, like there's such like a fantastic way of showing who Superman is like after this missile explodes, and he's near it, and he, like, I don't know if he's hurt, but he looks like he's at least surprised or at least a little, like, not damaged from it, but like hurt from it. But it's gone, and then before just zipping back down to the planet, he just like pauses and looks at Earth and goes, "Oh," you know, and like, and it's just like those little moments that I'm like, you didn't have to put that in there. You could have had.
No, but it's a really important character moment of
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just love that. Like, they nail him so well, in just those little subtle moments. Not so subtle, I guess, because it's super spread, but you know what I mean. Like, it's just a little smile on his face, and then for like being serious again.
Shown,
yeah.
And then he shoots after. He also both things. So he just fights the missile, and then he fights the submarine. Both are which like very phallic. I don't know why he's only fighting giant metal penises in this issue, but it's like
the
whether it's a missile or a
bro.
Is that what it is? Is that it's the patriarchy? Okay.
No, it's small men trying to.
Small it's like men the same. With large dicks.
It's like the guy. It's like the guys that have like really cool cars that make a lot of noise. You know what I mean? Like, Superman is the best of us all. And
but then, what I do like
they're
is
constantly they're measuring dicks against him, and the only dicks that they have can measure against him is a giant metal penis.
Yeah, but I mean, that joke aside, I do like how this issue is really quick hits of kind of 50s Superman stuff of like Lois is stuck in a submarine and he saves her. A missile's coming from Metropolis and he stops it. It's just very quick hits of kind of classic. Again, it's not him fighting Zod or doing all. It's just him saving people and like saving the city and being larger than life. And they just all of this is these little vignettes are done so well. I love how when he rescues Lois from the submarine, the evil Russian captain or whatever has a gun to her head and she just karate flips him over and just beats the shit out of him. It's just such a good Lois moment. Because again, this is all just classic Superman and Lois comic activity. It's just very nostalgic and just perfectly done. I love all of it. And Lex is just this curmudgeonly titan of industry who's just, God damn it, why did he break my submarine? God damn, it's just great. All of this is great.
Yeah. Lex is done so well.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Like, Lex is clearly behind it. Not to any way that can be tied to him, I guess, but like he's in the middle of a board meeting and someone walks in and hands him a piece of paper and he's like, a more pressing issue has arisen, kind of thing. Like, and then he like goes immediately to where Superman's bringing the sub down. Because right after stopping the missile, which was fired from the submarine, by the way, Superman just lifts the submarine out of the water and like drops it down, and to the military goes, "Here, you guys handle these guys."
And I do also like I like the banter that we see here between Clark and Lois and Superman and Lois and how kind of different it is. Like when he sweeps up Lois and she says, "Oh, my hair, my shoes, oh my God," and he just says, "Be honest, isn't this the only way to fly?" It's kind of like a more braggadocious way to talk. Clark would never say something like that. But I like their banter that they have in both.
Yeah,
I like both relationships have a good banter set up. And also Tim Sale's art, I do like how he sweeps her up and you see like her shoes are almost falling off. Which is, first of all, the whole OnlyFans joke, WikiFeet joke, insert there. But I just like how Tim Sale shows the kind of the action and the suddenness of, she's just being swept up by, her shoes kind of slip off. It's all, I just love everything about, like, I just can't say enough good about this issue. Everything's great. I love both of them.
You can see, Superman and it's not even Lex's issue yet, but you can see how everything that Superman does emasculates Lex.
Yeah.
Everything he does. Yeah.
He's like, and he does it on purpose. He's a little bit of a snarky little asshole to Lex.
Superman does not like
100%. Oh, he doesn't at all. And because he knows who Lex is. I think he, much like Pa Kent calls Pete Eddie Haskell, I think like Lex to him is like, he immediately takes the measure of that man and goes, this guy's a piece of shit and I got to watch out for him. Kind of thing. And like,
to your point about
he owns the city. Like, no one owns this. I don't own the city, and I'm Superman. Like, these are people, and they need to be helped.
And to your point about the emasculating, all he has to do is stand next to Lex, and it automatically
well, like the
him
bullet
'cause he
thing,
towers over him.
like Patty was saying with the blur, he's like, "I'll handle this, Lois. I can negotiate with anyone, even Terror or Is." You know, like, and while that's happening, Superman's like, "I already got the gun."
Yeah,
he's like, "Luther, the situation's under control," kind of thing. And then and to your point, out Lois finishes it off and just like elbows the guy in the stomach,
just
and takes
beats
him out.
the crap at karate, like 60s karate chops him. It's just great. I love every.
Well, also,
every
I mean,
bit
just
of it.
him taking Lois away. He's like, "All right, Lois, you want to fly with me?" And he's like, "How dare you? It's this kind of slanderous and false. I'm talking to you." Like Lex is like yelling at Superman while he just flies off with Lois.
Yeah,
he's just like, "Whatever, I don't care about you." I mean, it's just again, perfect dynamic of how their relationships are in such a small space of time.
Yeah,
but the pacing is so perfect the whole time.
And
it doesn't feel shoehorned in.
Yeah, and even the next few panels when Lois interacts with Clark, I love how it's still kind of flirtatious, but also at the same time completely dismissive of. It's just so perfect the way she, she calls them Smallville, and I just again, it's like flirtatious, but also just completely dismisses Clark at the same time. It's so well done, and it's so Lois. It's so perfectly like who Lois Lane is. It's done great. In this, we all have our little secrets, Clark. I'm sure even you do. And and the irony there is, of course, he's Superman. It's just, it's great. It's so great. It's just classic Superman. And then I did also want to call out in this issue when Clark goes home, we get a panel where he's in the same lying back pose in his room, but whereas in Smallville his room was choked with rural American iconography, this room is just bare. And one thing that the next two comics, really, Summer and Fall, that I think are really interesting because they really highlight how isolated Clark is.
I agree, but I would also say like part of that is because in Smallville he was living more as a person and not just as Superman and a person, and like in this. Him being in Metropolis, although he is Clark Kent and has like a job at the Daily Planet and everything, this is the starkness kind of to me speaks to the importance of the other half of what he does. Like he doesn't have time for like baseball and a bunch of crap all over his room. Like he has a little tiny TV that's not even pointed towards his bed. It's probably like, I don't know, facing the kitchen or something. But like, it's just like there's nothing in that room, but it's because I don't know if it's because like he's an empty person. I think it's just now he has purpose.
No, but
I didn't say he was an empty person, but he is.
Oh no, I know you didn't. Yeah, I'm just saying like that's what it says to me.
But these issues do highlight like how isolated Clark feels.
Oh sure,
and how he
100%.
does search for connection. He's trying, and throughout these issues, he does kind of reach back out and reform connections, because I think this whole run is about him finding the balance he needs.
Yeah.
And this summer issue, he's very much leaning into, I am Superman. 24 hours, I save people. That's what I do. And the later two issues are a little bit more
like his apartment's just a place he sleeps while he's Superman. You know what I mean?
But the later two issues, he leans a little bit back into reforming connections with his past, with Lois in Metropolis, and finding a better balance. Of being both the man Clark and the hero Superman. But in this issue, they really highlight how isolated his current existence is in Metropolis.
But I also
this is my favorite Smallville. My favorite Smallville panel is him and Martha embracing in the wheat field. Again, look at the color work for the sunset.
That's obviously corn now.
The double page spreads.
You know anything about
it is a cornfield. It is a cornfield. But this is my favorite Smallville moment. Is this Martha Clark embrace when he goes back?
I also just want to go back to the point when he's laying in the bed as an adult first, when he's a teenager in his like childhood home. I feel like that's a very just relatable scene in general to when you get your first apartment as an adult and you don't. He's got the jar of peanut butter.
Move out and you realize you have no furniture.
And you have no furniture. You've got no knickknacks. You don't know your own sense. You've kind of, it's your room at your parents' house, but your parents kind of pretty much picked out all the furniture for you, and it's jam packed with years of trophies and all these memories and stuff. And then as an adult, when you get your own place, I feel like that was very much, you got a beanbag chair and you got a TV on the ground and a mattress on the floor, and a jar of peanut butter is what you eat for dinner, and you're just still figuring out like how to take care of yourself, basically. Like, I get all of your points are valid, but I just felt like looking at that, I was like, that's kind of how I felt like when I was in law school.
I was definitely talking more thematically about like why his room is
but
empty.
Also going back to the themes of it in Lois's narration of it, a little bit after these pages, she's saying Clark has this theory that Superman slips off to some kind of fortress of solitude. And of course, in classic comics, he has a literal.
He has one, but his fortress of solitude is just.
But
Clark's
in this comic, the fortress of solitude is inner, like it is his inner self right now.
I like him sitting there sad in his room, and then he just obviously he's feeling homesick and sad and alone, and just goes to visit his family, which is what you were just bringing up, Al.
And he goes back and has he just reaches back out to those roots.
The size of him at that table.
He's giant. He's giant.
It looks like a kid. It looks like a grown adult sitting. It's like when I sit down at my kid's little coloring table, like sitting in a chair that's not big enough for me, and like my knees are hitting the bottom of the table, and like
I also, as a dog owner, I love Clark's relationship with Shelby the dog.
Yeah, same. It's something we haven't talked about. I mean, I barely mentioned it earlier in reference to Crypto, but like Shelby as a character is mildly important through this comic.
Well, we didn't mention it, but in issue 1, there's another dinner table scene, and you just see Clark feeding scraps.
Yeah, he's
under
feeding
the table
scraps
to Shelby, and in this one, Shelby's just has her little head on his knees.
And he's like, Shelby's really getting older, huh? You know, like kind of like. Yeah. He's just kind of going like, my childhood's dying, right? You know, and I don't know. It's pretty heartfelt. We have another run-in with the priest randomly.
Yeah, could have done without that.
Still doesn't have a lot of answers for our boy.
Well, he was going to see Lana.
Yeah, no, but
he was definitely going to see Lana.
You know that the priest befriended Lana's aunt before she died, and he got in that will, and he owns that house now.
Probably. He probably got her. He probably got the
She willed it to the church, which he owns.
Yeah, exactly. Church owns that property now, not Lana Lang.
I do want to say good for Lana that she also got out of the small town. You know, good for her.
Yeah,
live your life. You know.
Yeah. There's a lot of different versions of like what happens in that period of time. Like they actually weirdly enough touched on this in Zack Snyder's movie, but like there's a period of time between like when he leaves Smallville and he like doesn't go to college, but he like travels the world. And I don't know if Jeph Loeb wrote that too. I forget what it's called. At any rate, there's a comic that analyzes that period of time, like in between Metropolis and after Smallville, and he like travels the world and becomes a little bit more worldly. It's kind of when he discovers that he wants to become a reporter, you know, as well as help people. But he like goes around helping people and kind of like learning about other cultures around the world and like that kind of thing. And they don't really touch on it in this book, which, you know, it's fine. They didn't have a ton of time. They were like 4 issues. These are the key things we want to hit. But Lana classically kind of does this thing where she leaves, and either it depends on what version of her you're reading, but like the Superman animated series kind of did it well, but like she kind of comes back as like a powerful like executive, you know, kind of thing. And like hits the scene in Metropolis, and he's like, Lana, you're a grown-up now, and like he's conflicted with like his love of Lois and Lana.
Well, he can't. I mean, if a woman has both a first and last name that starts with L, he loses it.
And you know who the other person he loves is? Lex
Luthor.
Yeah. You know, the difference between love isn't, or the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So the fact that
there we go. Do you guys think
Clark, Superman has a child with Lois and Lex in the comics? I mean,
that's true.
Well, if you kind of clone, is a clone it's not really a child.
It's a clone of Lex and Superman.
Okay.
What is a baby? What is a baby?
He's got his own soul.
Yeah, sure.
Soul that he made himself.
Sure. Okay. I'm sure.
Issue 25 of Teen Titans on Jeph Times Run. Raven shows Superboy his soul.
Yeah.
And she said, "You made this all yourself."
Yeah. Yeah,
I love it.
I'm sure
I love it.
Smallville
I love
fans
the
would
vehemence. I
disagree.
love how heartfelt this is.
Do you guys think? Just a side note. Do you guys think Clark is like? Is he a sports reporter? What does he report on? You think he does a good job?
He's just
You
an
think he's good at
investigative
his-
reporter like Lois.
But he doesn't
they
write
fight
about
for the same
Superman.
stories.
But Lois
does
is
write about
really the
Superman.
one who writes about Superman, isn't she?
No,
more
but
of
he
the
does
Superman
write about
beat?
No,
Superman.
he does write about Superman. Yeah,
He
So
does
he's
it
kind
in
of
his
like
book.
he does. Yeah.
so he's
that's the
like
whole-
how Peter Parker just takes pictures of Spider-Man. Clark just writes things about Superman.
Less than that, but yeah.
I feel like the fact that he's Superman, he can hear things and he can move at super speed. He probably gets like the.
He can
scoop on
just
stories.
he just investigates. He's like, I overheard Elon Musk say this, and that's my investigative insight. He can just do that.
Or Lois
Like,
writes
actually,
like
yeah,
Superman
off the
stops
page.
the missile. Lois writes the story about Superman stopping the missile, and Clark writes the story about where the submarine came from.
Okay, he writes about like the ties to LexCorp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the corruption and the
Okay.
ties to Lex Luthor.
I gotcha. One last thing about the issue 2 that I did like is obviously issue 1 was narrated by Pa Kent. So we got a lot of the Clark-Pa Kent relationship. And
Mhm.
2 goes a little deeper into the Ma Kent and Clark relationship, which was sweet. You know, she's very wise and old and old.
I think and it's a very subtle thing, but when they're kids, Pete walks into the diner and touches the elephant and says, "I wish I had $1 million," kind of like "It's a Wonderful Life" kind of style. And then when he's with Clark in the summer issue, he kind of whispers it. He does it, but he whispers it to himself, and it's like kind of just for him. And then in the later issue, when he's with Lana and Clark, and they walk in there, he doesn't touch it, and Lana goes, Pete, what about the elephant?" He goes, "What? Oh, that's kid shit." You know, like, and I know it's dumb, and there's not like a ton of like context to like Pete as a human. But just that little subtle growth of that character, like even Pete, the total background character, has like some growth to him, and it's not even like good growth. It's like part of him died, sort of, and he's just sad and in Smallville still.
Yeah,
And it's like, but like he has an arc, as subtle as it is, and I'm just like, that's why this book is so good. Like all these characters are just so well written on so many levels that it's kind of hard to like parse out sometimes, or like really take notice of, unless you've read it 100 times like I have.
Yeah.
read it slowly.
Right. And so the end of this issue is he goes back to Metropolis to fight this chemical fire. And this is one where I kind of thought, is his hatred for Lex maybe too much? Because it seems like the Lex bots were actively trying to put the fire out, and Superman just said, "You all out of the way," without really giving them a chance.
I think the key here is that they weren't like, they're trying to do this thing that's flashy and showy, like Lex style, and he's like, "But you missed something, and there's someone in the fucking fire still, you idiots," you know, like, and runs in and saves this person.
Well, they were basically telling him to fuck off, weren't they?
Yeah, they were saying like, "We've got it handled." I mean, I get all that.
Like,
it seems like he's a little too aggro against Lex,
like
more than it's.
But he knows what fucking That's what I'm saying. Like he knows Lex already. Like he knows what this is. Like he knows this is bullshit. He knows this is just like a flashy publicity thing. And in the meantime, they would have caused or like let someone die in the fire because they were trying to show off for the camera.
Also, are those bots or dudes in suits? I wasn't really
Those are
quite
dudes
clear.
in suits.
They're dudes in suits.
Yeah.
Okay, but he does save a blonde woman with glasses, who then becomes his cult follower, sort of.
Toxin.
that is true.
She is obsessed with him. She has a little Bro Jogan shrine.
She does.
She has the whole little Bro Jogan shrine.
It's not a little one. It is enormous.
She's also wearing a robe. Like she's wearing cult robes in her own house.
In her
shrine.
Did you say Bro Jogan?
Bro, it's the Bro Jogan.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even really listen to podcasts. I just read books.
So I have a few notes.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, no, what were you going to say? Well, I have a few notes on issue 2. First, there's
for it.
Earlier in the issue, Lois is having her internal dialogue, and she talks about how her and Jimmy Olsen try to calculate how much money Lex Luthor makes per second.
Yes.
It's probably $150. He probably makes $150 a second. That means if Lex was walking down the street and saw a $100 bill on the ground, it's not worth his time to pick it up. So I Googled it, though, and I think Elon Musk makes about between $600 to $700 a second. And so if you think about it, like in 1998, Tim Sale and Jeph Loeb were like, "What's the most insane amount of money you could possibly think?"
Yeah, and it wasn't
borderline
even
realistic. And it's like
it wasn't even close to Elon Musk's
It's just so stupid where we're at. So there's that, and then this was the issue with Clark's having he's homesick and he's with Ma Kent, and this is the callback to Pa Kent in the first issue with the glasses in space, and the glasses are reflecting space, and how Clark, he says, it's just even with all the good I've done, sometimes I seem out of place in the city, and I always thought Smallville would feel like home. Now it feels different.
Now it's different too. Yeah.
And I thought that was also very relatable because I can feel very out of place, in Atlanta or Los Angeles, and then you go back to where you grew up, and it's not the same place anymore because the place is really about the people that were there when you were there.
Yeah,
and it's kind of almost going back when those same people aren't there anymore. It's like a sad nostalgia to it, so I really like that whole bit. And then
like his dog's getting older, Lana's not there anymore.
Yeah.
He hung out with Pete and it feels empty or not as like relatable.
He's like Pete. He was like it was fine. It wasn't.
Yeah, no, it's a very universal. I remember going back home, like in my mid-20s after being away for a while, and it was just the house was a little different. Like furniture was different. People aren't there. It is just kind of. It's not the home you remember.
Right. Yeah. And then my favorite thing about this whole issue was Lois. You get Lois's POV while the Chemco lab fire is going on. And I loved getting her thoughts as a journalist and seeing the story develop. Because she's like, okay, there's this, Lex is acquiring Chemco. Chemco is on fire. So that's bad for Lex. So there's a story here. But she's like, there's no hook. I need a sexy hook. Then Lex's guardian shows up and she's like, well, this is something, but it's not sexy. But then Superman shows up and he's like, okay, Superman's here. I've got the hook. And then she's like, but I need a story. There's no human element. And then Superman saves the woman that the Guardians were overlooking. And she's like, well, there's the story. And then she's like, and then I need the lead. She's like, what's the lead? And she's like, oh, I had the lead. This is a job for Superman. And then she's like, and now I have my headline when she interviews the woman that he saved, saying that Superman is an angel or whatever. Yeah. So I liked getting that viewpoint from Lois and seeing how her reporter brain is like, well, this story's shit. It's page 9 story, and by the end of it, she's like, I've got my front page.
I do also, going back to that, I do love her comment. It's typical Luthor. No personality, no independence. I love it. Just trash.
But on that note, Patty, this is the job for Superman thing, being a classic dumb line that he would have said in the old serial cartoons and the old thing, like her being the one to say it while he's doing something, it like brings back all those feelings, but at the same time it's like it's done in a more, I don't know, not realistic, but like a way that makes more sense, like it's not Superman going like, this is a job for Superman and like flying in and saving the fire. It's like her going like, oh, here's my hook. It's that this is a job for Superman, meaning like he's what makes it human versus like these robotic automatons that are like, I really love that. Like it. But yeah, so she's crazy. I love this
panel of the panel of Superman throwing
casually throwing the Lex guy away.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
He just backhand,
like,
fly swats him away. Just backhand fly swats him away.
He says, tell your boss I don't have time for this.
Oh, is that what you see? I see him putting his hand on his shoulder and then kind of like flinging him backwards. Like I don't think he like smacked him. I think he just was like, get out of the way. But with way too much force.
But yeah.
Also, those Lex bots are shooting, I assume, water
Is
at
it
the
water?
fire. But then like, I don't know, it could be like
no, it's water. It's probably water. No,
or it could be like fire extinguisher material or whatever. But it's like,
where is this coming from?
Where is it coming? That's what
where is it coming from?
They're not walking around. They're not flying around with giant tanks on their backs or anything. I'm like, what? Like, are they hooked up to a hose? Like, what's happening?
Is it wind? No. Yeah, it's just magic.
The technology makes no fucking sense.
It's technology. Look, it's LexCorp. They're cutting edge.
Listen, there's technology in those bots.
Yeah. Well, and I love how they all have giant L's on their chest. I'm sorry, we'll get into the Lex Luthor thing, but I'm like,
well, his
this
building
Lex Luthor
is a
is
giant
like
L. Look at his
I know, but
why?
It's just so.
Let me ask you something. Why didn't Luthor buy up more real estate and put UTHOR or at least LL and have 2 buildings.
That would be tacky.
He's that much of an asshole. That'd be tacky.
Also, green
He's
and
full
purple.
Tacky.
Green and purple is a weird
classic
color
villain
scheme
colors.
to make your own. It is a weird color scheme to just really go in on as a business. That is strange.
Yeah.
Secondary,
but
colors.
it is very isn't Kang green and purple? And
Yeah, again, green and purple are
everybody's
classic
green.
villain colors in comics.
Brainiac, right? Isn't he green and purple? There were just a lot of Elon Musk vibes with the branding of the L's on everything.
Hey now.
You can imagine X's being on everything that he.
So Lex is arrested for the Chemco fire?
Well, let's get to season. So not season. Issue
my one
3
very
fall.
last quick note was just back to Tim Sale's art. I liked how, and the colorists, like we were right to call the colorists out, because when he just does the spin to siphon the fire out, and he kind of looks like a moth. Like there's one panel where he almost looks like a moth, and then
he does his Jesus pose.
Really stunning visuals there. But anyways, what did he get arrested for? Because I have no idea.
I think it was the chemical fire, because
it's got to be
was
like
saying that it was a cover up and
corruption between the fire. Yeah, it's got to be corruption between the fire, like some sort of like low level corruption charge that all
either that or the illegal international submarine attack, which he was also tied to. I think one.
I don't think they could prove that one.
Well, they don't have to prove it. They just have to charge him. They don't have to prove anything to charge you and book you for a night. Okay, issue 3, fall.
Lex Luthor.
And this one, I love this issue. I thought Lex's POV narration was pretty fascinating.
Yes,
he is like quintessential, just 50s businessman. I know the right way. My way is the right way. Mm-hmm. Let's move. Commerce. Let's get stuff done. And just, you can see how something like Superman just completely offsets his worldview and what he thinks the way things should be. And it's just, this issue nails that so well. I really like that.
I think the detail I love the most about it is how Lex says that this is a love story and how he is in love with Metropolis and Metropolis is in love with him. And Superman
now
showing
Metropolis
up.
is in love with him. Yeah.
Yes, now Metropolis, and that is what it all boils down to. That is why Lex hates this fucking guy, is because Metropolis, the city he loves, the city he built, at least in his head, that he thinks he owns, has betrayed him, and now has this other idol, and he can't
stand that. Yeah.
And I've never really I've kind of always, I guess, known that's a bit of the issue, but I think they did a really good job of just succinctly being like, this is why Lex Luthor, it's such a petty, stupid thing, but this is why Lex Luthor became a supervillain and just fucking hates
basically.
Superman.
So there's that, and they do it subtly, but Lois is getting into a limo with him earlier, and Superman zips by.
There is also,
and then later in that issue, again, he emasculates Lex by taking the gun out of the guy's hand and that kind of, and then taking Lois away. It's Lois represents that part of it too, but but not in a huge way. I don't think they were dating kind of thing, but who knows? But because it's not gone into it this book, but I think that's an aspect of it as well. He likes to blame it on, from Lex's perspective, he could never, even in his inner monologue, vocalize that a woman would want somebody over him. You know what I mean, kind of thing. So it's almost like he's using the city to also hide the other part of him that is upset.
I don't know. I do think the main issue is the city part. I think Loeb and Sale are using the Lois relationship as just another example to tack on of the sort of rivalry between the two men. But I do think the main thing is Luthor just saying, I poured billions into rebuilding this shithole of a city into a center of commerce and all that, and he doesn't like that now they like Superman more than him.
It's a popularity contest.
It is, and it's unlike how we see billionaires act in our world.
They're also altruistic and professional.
So in the meantime, Lex has the cult girl in a Clockwork Orange chair with her eyes open.
Yeah, it turns out that the woman that Superman saved from the chemical fire is actually like a genius.
She's a chemical genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lex takes advantage of her obsession with Superman.
So I haven't read this in like weeks. What was Lex's play again? What did he convince Vaughn she was doing, which is why she did the death gas? Do you all remember?
Oh, I don't
know. I don't know if she was involved with infecting people. I think she was involved with
the cure.
But
didn't she make the original death gas too?
I mean, he brainwashed her, so maybe.
Yeah, she's off. Like you said, she's literally being Clockwork Orange. So I don't know if she's fully in her capabilities, understanding what's going on with what she's doing. I do love, right before we get to her, the scene where he's being shaved, Lex, and he gets nicked, and then he's like, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And he's like, "There's nothing to be sorry about. You made a mistake. I forgive you." And he sucks on his own blood on his finger. And it's just one of the, I don't know what it is about that, but it's just like the subtlety, like that could be him flipping out on that person on any other given day versus like that day where he just randomly decides to be altruistic and like go like, it's not a big deal.
Well, I don't know if it's altruistic as much. I do, but I think it's really the power trip of I forgive. Like I have the power to punish you or not.
Yeah.
And I choose to forgive you. I think it just highlights that. Like I could fucking destroy you, but instead I'll just forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think that's the dynamic. Yeah, I want to call out a Clark and Lois moment that's really I enjoyed. So Lois, being the intrepid reporter she is kind of sneaking around Clark's desk, and I love how Sale draws his expression where he just says, "What are you doing?" And then he's just towering over. He's just this giant monolith behind her, and she just does this little like gulp noise. It's great. I thought that was a fun little turnaround.
I love that Clark's baseball glove is on his desk. Again, going back to like what we were saying about Tim Sale, or rather what Jeph Loeb
what
was
do desks say about people? Yeah,
and
does he have a six pack in the drawer down there?
No, I think it's like
no, those are energy drinks. They're energy drinks.
I think it's more like Coca-Cola or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he has chips in a bottle sitting out on his desk. I mean, that bottle looks suspiciously like a beer bottle.
So he's got cans of beer and a beer bottle all on his desk.
He's just drinking at his desk, tossing a baseball up and catching it, like writing letters to his parents. Harry's like, "What are you doing? You haven't written a story in months."
I mean, this takes place in kind of a 50s era. Like people drank at the office back then.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe this is.
How much? I mean, like I know. I guess it's pretty canon that alcohol doesn't really affect Superman, right? But like,
yeah.
What would be the point? I guess other than to be like, I'm a human, and just drinking a six-pack at your fucking
Yeah, I also
desk.
like how Lois found a notepad where he wrote LL, and she just assumed it was about her. Ooh, is that about me? And I just thought,
who else could possibly have an LL initial?
Ooh, it's got to be about me. But
and you've got this part here about LL, as in Lois Lane, and he's like Lana Lang. I would have been really great if he was like Lex Luthor.
I know.
I was asking if my parents in Smallville had any news about Lex Luthor that they wanted to share.
But then that's when the gas attack hits. Great Caesar's ghost!
So the gas attack hits and everyone gets sick. And I have to say, while everyone's like passing out and dying, it keeps cutting to Lex. And he says truth, justice. And then when you get to the American Way panel and it's like him, side profile, like... Yeah, Superman's original quote was just truth and justice, right? And then they attacked American. They attacked on American Way like around World War II.
Oh, right.
I felt like this, and it's so of the times. Like this just feels so prescient with this red-haired billionaire, fucking like killing his fellow man for revenge
to prove somebody. A point, basically.
And then for it to be like this creepy side profile of him while he's saying the American way, it just like I just felt like this was prescient and
But that is the American way. I mean,
out.
Lex is uncaring business.
He's capitalism,
He is
He's
economy.
pure
He is
capitalism.
money. He is power and dollar bills, and nothing human about. Like that is the American way.
And I loved after this. He's kind of Superman's freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on. And Lex's internal monologue is like, "There's no one cheering for him, or smiling for him, or clapping for him. He must be devastated." Because, like, in Lex's head, the only reason Superman saves people is for the
accolades. Is for the adulation,
accolades. Yeah, because that's it's like such a great insight into how Lex's brain works and how he projects how he thinks onto Clark. And Superman.
But the thing is, it's a little deeper than that because ironically, Lex has hit on something, because all we've seen this issue so far is how lonely Clark is. And so now he is literally alone in this city where everybody is past that. So even though, it's ironic in the sense that, like, he doesn't really care about the applause, but he does care about just not being alone, and he is weirdly more alone now. So Lex did kind of ironically hit a nerve for Clark. Also, we get my favorite page of this fucking run. Look at this. Look at that.
Really?
Look at that man stop a train. Look at him stop that train. That's just badass. One thing about this panel, I do love it. However, how is this conductor not murdered?
Not dead, yeah.
With that level of
I think it's more like it looks. Again, I think it's. I don't know. I imagine that more of like him landing there and stopping it, and it slowly crunching up on him. Like, it's not like he stopped it instantaneously.
That glass, that dude would be out like 50
out the
feet.
Window,
that's what speaks to the slowness with which he slowed it down, though. That's what I'm saying. I think it's just like the force of Superman pushed the front of the train in. And like the fact that he's not flying through the windshield shows like how he slowed it down first. You know?
I think that conductor is lucky as shit, because
also like Superman Returns when he grabs the plane real slowly and it starts crunching.
Much like that. Yeah, wait, hold on. I have an aside. My brother, when he went to college, this was around that time, I think. But like on one of his apartment walls, he painted that exact panel, like a huge mural of it. Yeah, of him, like of Superman stopping the train, and that's like that was on his. And I remember like walking into his like apartment in Athens, Georgia, at UGA, and going like, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" Like, what the fuck, like kind of thing. And it was just just a weird memory of mine that I'm like, oh, Tom recreated that artwork on his wall.
I mean, it's a great panel.
Yeah. It's an awesome panel. It's a very quintessential Superman panel.
Yep. We get a Star Labs appearance. We get him go to Star Labs.
I love this. That like the only other person awake in the city is just locked in an airtight lab, and then like her only advice is, "Look, man, I don't know. Have you talked to Luthor?" And he's like, fuck."
My favorite Luthor line is when he says like, "You got to go talk to Luthor." And the next panel is just a close-up of Luthor's face that he says, "You can't come in." And I just lost it. I was laughing so hard when he
"You can't come in here."
Yeah, you can't come in. So it's just Superman outside the window. And I just love that, he's just like, "No, you're not allowed to come in here."
Also, I mean, like, there's right after that, he says, "I'm fairly certain you can hear me with those heightened senses of yours. I've quarantined the building. I've got entire floors of people who need medical care." It's like, it speaks to Luthor's, it seems like Luthor's kind of is still trying to measure him. I'm again like, can he hear me? I don't know. I think he can, but it's that early stages of Luthor not knowing like every single thing that Superman can do, and it's just one little line of like, "Pretty sure you can hear me. Maybe you can't. Pretty sure you can." And then like, I just see it as like Luthor going like, if Superman responds, he goes, "Check." And like knows a little bit more of like what Superman can do, kind of thing, and just like, I'll save that in my brain for the next time I have to fuck you up. I love that little stuff.
I loved how he, again, just how it's very of the times right now when Luthor says, "I mean, however your powers are manifested, scientifically, biologically, or perhaps alien in nature." It's like,
I love again, like little things. Like he's just like, "I don't quite know what you are still, and I'm gonna figure it out. And once I do, I'm gonna like come back 10 times harder the next time."
Well, I do also, but it's also Luthor's plot is pretty devastating because he basically makes Superman think, well, maybe he's the one who caused the virus.
Yeah.
And then B, I mean, a spoiler alert for 2 seconds from now, but Vaughn helps Superman kind of clean out the virus, but then she dies immediately after, and
like
Lex
being
says,
saturated with
oh,
it, yeah.
and Lex says, oh, she had exposure and she died. So basically, like this Vaughn woman who saved the city, Superman also couldn't save from the virus that
he's trying to break Superman in the one way he can, like
so he just completely like psychologically is breaking Superman and saying like you caused all this and couldn't save the person who saved the city. You are a failure.
I do love the moment where Superman clenches a fist and goes, if I were to crash through this glass and drag you out here, how long before some LexCorp employee would appear with an antidote? Like he knows what's going on.
Yeah. But at the same time, Lex says he cannot lose faith in himself or he's lost. Like he knows Superman would never fucking do that, because if he did do it and Lex did get sick and die, like it's just kind of showing again, like Lex, like to your point, Joe, just that Lex has definitely been measuring this man and figuring him out since day one.
Well, they both kind of are too, I think. I mean, like, it's not just Lex, I guess, but like, Superman says himself, but I can't do that. Like, I want to break you. I want to do this, but I can't because of what you're saying. But also, he's like,
well, but that's what
can you help? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's what makes.
And Lex... It's like, why? It's so funny you brought up. Can I help? I happen to have a chemical expert right here.
I got Miss Jenny Vaughn, a technical expert, who can help out.
And I'm not going to reveal to you that she'll die when you take her up there, but she'll definitely help.
But back to the point you all were just making. I mean, I think that's what makes Lex a good foil, because obviously if they were both operating under the same moral values, Superman could just beat up Lex and win, and that would be it. But what makes Lex a good foil is he is operating under different rules than Superman can. And that's why he can manipulate and murder. And all this. Superman
that right there, Al, is exactly why Lex is such a great villain for him. But it's also the one thing most, I think, general audiences like don't understand. And like it's constantly that thing of like, why doesn't Superman just take Lex out? And like, because he wouldn't. It's not because he can't. It's because he wouldn't do that. That's what makes him Superman. Like kind of thing. Like when people voice those concerns or like those thoughts on the internet and stuff, I'm just like, you just don't understand Superman if you don't get why he wouldn't just take Lex
but it's
out.
Similar to, you hear the same stuff with Batman too. Like why doesn't he just kill the Joker or Mr. Freeze, and then you don't why put him in Arkham so they can break out? But that's just not who these heroes are. They don't do the murder.
That's what makes them the heroes that they are. Is that they won't do that.
They don't impose their will and deliver justice themselves. They still they protect humanity. They don't lead humanity per se.
Yeah. Except for Marvel superheroes like Iron Man and the Illuminati and Captain America do murder people. They do murder.
I learned from my father to always give people what they want, but always for a price.
Yeah. That's the American way.
Yeah. That's what he was talking about. And the sadness in Clark's
So do you think, Patrick,
eyes when
this
he's
is
like,
the more effective way to fly with a woman other than just holding her wrist?
Yeah, just grab onto their hips. Yeah.
You think that's the more effective way? Yeah,
probably.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say her lumbar strength must be really strong to like be upright like that, because I still feel like that would be. I feel like she would be like hunched over. He should be Supergirl had it right. You should be holding them from the armpits.
Yeah, probably. Just cradling them like a little baby.
Yeah.
Do you think
there's an ongoing joke in the? She must have. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a crazy person.
She is an insane. I mean, she also was Clockwork Oranged. So
I know. Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, I'm not big, but she was crazy before that. Can we all agree?
She was crazy.
She did have a shrine.
She had a bro joking shrine. Yeah. She was crazy. She was a little unhinged before that.
The timing was hard to tell, but it kind of implied that she had that shrine before Superman rescued her.
No, you could put that up in a day. It's just a bunch of pictures.
I don't know. Put that up fast. 1998. Who has a printer those days? Who has the internet that can?
More people had printers in 1998 than they do now, for sure.
Probably, but they could print out poster-size images of Superman. I don't know.
Those are just sold. Those are sold at every coffee shop on the corner in Metropolis.
Maybe, yeah.
Every newsstand has posters of Superman. Like I've been trying. Tried to say this 3 times, and it's basically irrelevant now. But there's a joke in the Invisible comics where like he's always holding people under their armpits, like and flying, and they're like hanging underneath him. And then every single time he's like, the person is inevitably like, "This is uncomfortable," and he's like, "Yeah, I've been told," And it's just like, but like fast forward 10 issues, it's happening again, and the person's like, "Oh, this kind of sucks," and he's like, "I know." Like and it just keeps happening. I love that. I love that they bring it back like constantly. Anyway, but yeah, there's how else would you do it other than just holding the person like cradling?
I think like cradling them.
Yeah,
Piggyback
that's the only way to do it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
piggyback would probably be pretty effective. Yeah.
Piggyback.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's funny, but like the most logical way, honestly, is sitting on their shoulder. Like when like Robin or something would be sitting on, or Batman sits on Superman's shoulders with his like legs hanging down between, like over his shoulders.
No, I think piggyback.
He's just sitting on his back.
I think piggyback would probably be
like holding on,
safest because like you've got the arms around the chest.
Yeah, because if Superman started really taking off his speed and Batman was sitting like upright on his back,
kind
like
of
he'd be blown backwards.
You can lock in your feet on the inner thigh. Like you can really.
Yeah, you can just lock around. Yeah.
Right. I think piggyback is the way to go.
I mean, cradle's also fine.
Or but cradle just relies on the flyer to really. I think piggyback is it allows the flyer to focus on flying and the flyee to focus on holding on.
So Clark's clearly devastated by this death of this woman. And while he's in this vulnerable point, Lex goes, "Go back to wherever you came from before you fail us all." And I know this whole thing was orchestrated by him to achieve this moment, but man, he nails it and sells it home. I love that, like, whatever toxin did to write the chemical shit in the air caused that like weird electrical storm. I like it's cool that the electricity or the lightning is like different colors because
it's great. Like, visually it's a great scene.
Reveals that it's like not a normal storm, but like just the pouring rain, and he comes out in an umbrella and he's just like, "Get the fuck out of here." And it works because Clark is devastated. And he's like, he comes home and he's just like, I think I need to stay here in Smallville for a little while. And you're just like, fuck, dude, he's devastated by this. That fucked him up.
Also, they have a new dog in Smallville.
Yeah, it's a little pup.
A little puppy.
Puppy.
Oh, Shelby.
Shelby didn't last very long, huh?
Oh my god, I didn't even pick up on that. Is that? Yeah, oh my god! Oh
it's
my
a different
god.
dog. That's not Shelby, dude.
Oh my god! That's why every issue like has a little, the art with spring, winter, and the dog is always on there. The winter one. Yeah. Oh man.
And it's not there.
Yeah. Oh man.
Winter. It's not
Shelby. Shelby's gone. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah,
I thought that was Shelby.
He's sitting with the dog.
Shit.
Summer.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk winter. We're on the last of these bad boys.
Well, Trevor's up to his old games. Running around rooftop ledges.
Trevor has a bicycle on the ceiling ledge. Maybe it is.
See, that makes me think. So this one, it's a different ledge because he didn't have that like inner lower area before.
But maybe people do hang out on ledges.
Well, there's literally a sky ledge around every corner where you can see him in the vantage point. There's like a sky bridge like going around the
That's
building.
Not safe. There's no railings.
There's no fucking railings.
Like
how many deaths, let alone how many accidental deaths, let alone purposeful. I mean, like if you were looking to commit suicide, and also if you are seek help, there's many hotlines to call. But like, if you weren't like ripe with opportunity in this city, you can just be like, oh, here's one. Woo!
But we do get a robot says get back inside, and we see a bunch of new signs for LexCorp being put up. So it seems like in Superman's absence, Lex has just been flexing all over Metropolis. And
yeah, LexCorp.
LexCorp is growing.
They're for you always. Citizen, stay inside. LexCorp is concerned for your safety. It's fantastic.
And also, in this last issue, we find out is narrated by Lana. And actually, I really liked the narration in this issue. I thought it was very revealing and touching to have Lana do this one.
There's a really good subtlety.
I don't have much to say about.
Oh, okay.
Well, we know you don't like Lana for whatever reason, Patrick.
That fucking red hair, man.
There we go. It's that red hair.
You
didn't like Lex either. You don't like gingers.
There's a cool thing that the letterer does. All the narration bubbles look slightly different. Like there's a slight change to like Lana's a little more spidery, a little thinner. Like Luther's was very like bold and all in caps. Very tiny thing, but something that I was like, oh, that's cool. I really like that.
We do get a little so Lois is kind of pining after missing Superman and Clark. And
I think it's more like pining after Superman, or rather lamenting Superman's absence, and then also going, it's weird that Clark's not here at the same time.
Yeah, well, we get the first hint at her maybe suspecting that, hey, why are they're kind of both gone. That's fascinating.
I do love that she goes, Lois Lane, that's the stupidest idea in the world. like she thinks about it for a second, she's like, what? Of course, them being gone at the same time doesn't mean anything.
That's
we're talking about Clark here. That's insane.
I don't know if it's a movie, like an old-timey thing, but a movie and like book conceit is when people talk to themselves and use their full name. Have you ever said, Patrick Walsh, what are you doing right now? Like, do you ever tell yourselves that? Like, I've never used my full name.
I definitely talk to myself.
But you use your full name?
But I don't think I've ever been like, Patrick Walsh, what the fuck? I've thought it before, being like, Patrick, what the fuck?
I don't say Joe O'Hara. That's insane.
But in movies, they do that all the time. They'll say like, Bill O'Bradley, what are you thinking? You know, they'll like talk to themselves.
I guess so. But like, I mean, I definitely say, usually if I'm talking or thinking to myself or talking out loud to myself, and I actually say my own name, it's because I feel like I've like actually, like I'm mad at the kids and I yell at them and I go, Joe, calm the fuck down, you're asshole, you know, like, and then I go in and apologize to my kids, you know, like that kind of, like, it's always like I fucked something up really bad in my brain, so I'm like, that's when I literally say my own name to myself, but not in just like a, Joe, that's the dumbest idea you've ever had, you know, like I've never,
yeah, but I've never used my full, you know, but whatever, people do it in comics. But so back in Smallville, it's winter, and we see that Lana's in town. And do you all like? I got a little bit of sort of like lesbian energy from Lana as an adult. Did you all get that? Was it just me?
No.
Yeah,
I didn't get lesbian energy. No, I think I got her. She met someone like Clark, who, as Lois said, is too good to be true when she was a kid. And every man she's met for the rest of her life, she's compared to Clark. And
yeah, but I also feel like a resignation from her that she won't ever be with Clark at this point.
Oh, of
like
course,
it's like
she's very much
there's like this
that,
like this like acceptance that I've moved on from Clark as well. Although not, you know, like their closeness goes back to like their friendship, and let's put it this way, their relationship feels purely platonic. Yeah, which is maybe what.
I think it definitely is. Yeah, no,
but I think that's like an acceptance and a resolution in her that she's moved on from Clark. Like when they have their interaction at the end of the first issue, and she gives him a little kiss, and she goes like, "You're gonna be great," you know, kind of thing. You could see that she's still in love with him, kind of thing. And then to Patrick's point, like maybe over this time she's like realize that, like, you know, that's not going to happen, and you know,
I get first
now
of all,
when they're together, she's just like, "You're my bud, like I'm here for you," you know, kind of thing. Yeah, I see what you're doing in
like
Metropolis,
I guess that
you
know? a heterosexual man and a heterosexual woman could have a platonic relationship. I just more aesthetically, I just get a little bit of like a lesbian vibe from her.
She's got heavy eyeshadow or something going.
I think
she's got sharp cheekbones. Is that what you're saying?
She wears like work boots.
I was about to say her.
She's in the snow.
Well, that when she's getting ready and putting the boots on, there is something very masculine about that stance, I guess she's doing when she's tying the boots up. I don't know. Like she looks like she's about to go.
Doesn't matter. Let's just let's just move on. We don't have to talk about this.
Looks like she's putting boots on to me. Right.
Yeah, well, she does definitely. I think we can all agree she puts boots on.
She puts boots on. Got it.
Okay, so there's this is another. It's sort of like a framing device. How he discovered his powers in a tornado, and now he's realizing his powers more fully in flood storm, sort of, but he saves the town again from a bad flood. He saves both the dog and the dad and the family.
I love how he's like, "Where's Mr. Stone, Morris?" And Morris is like, "Wichita Memorial." Kid. You've been gone a while. It's been 6 months. I don't know. So, do you guys get the impression that, like, I've always assumed that this book, although it's about the seasons, wasn't literally 1 year. It's like about seasons of his life, kind of.
Oh yeah,
like,
no, it's not. I don't think it's 1 year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's one calendar year.
Yeah.
No.
I just think it's kind of funny though, because like it does feel like that, sort of like the way the story is set up. And so, like, if you were to just read it and not think about it, you might be like, "This all happened in a year."
It didn't, because Shelby aged.
Shelby was just getting old. Yeah, Shelby was fine, and then like the next time he's there, he's like, "Shelby's getting old, huh?" Like kind of thing. Like that doesn't happen overnight, kind of thing. But it's sort of funny to like if it's literally spring, summer, fall, or like that kind of thing.
The beat when because the storm's happening and you can tell Clark wants to do something. And the dad, to Zack Snyder's credit, John Kent's like, "Oh, you can't do anything. Stay here with us." And he says, "Yes, sir." And then that's when Lana says, "Nothing like having a son who can change the course of mighty rivers." And Martha says, "What?" And then Clark says, "She knows." But the art, yeah. Clark has his hands in his pocket and he's like shrugging, kind of like he's about to get in trouble with his parents because he told the secret. He's like, "She knows."
She knows. And then Lana just goes, I know. What's funny about that? Like 5 seconds earlier, they're like sitting down. He's carving the turkey or whatever, and then the door gets knocked on, and he goes, "Chief Parker's here."
Yeah.
And like they don't feel like, I guess Martha and Jonathan are just so used to him like looking through the door without like no, like they don't think it. Like he revealed that she knew before that moment, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah,
because he says that right in front of Lana, like it's super normal. Like, "Oh, I can see through walls. Chief Parker's here." But yeah, we get another look at his childhood room of him laying on the bed in the exact same way he did in spring and summer. And it's also sparse, so like they've moved on from him being.
They like usually they put stuff in storage or whatever. Yeah.
I just like the contrast. I guess is like now his room at home is empty, and had we had the opportunity to see his apartment back in the city, I feel like it would be the reverse. It'd be
it was kind of interesting because the Lex issue is the only issue that doesn't have him
laying on a bed,
a parallel like that.
Well, he's got other stuff going. The city's dying. He's got stuff going on.
Well, I think the implication is that like he's moved on from
the implication.
Yeah, the implication. Yeah, we got to have a bed on the boat.
Okay, that's too deep a cut for this podcast.
I don't know. There might be some overlap there.
Okay. And he saves the new dog too, which is always which is touching.
I like him just being in a raincoat with his Superman costume underneath.
Yeah,
like
there was something
and just like a stack of boxes in his hand. It's like as tall as him, and it's like he's just holding it in one hand.
It's
just
so
little stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, I know that I've talked shit about this priest this whole time. He did give, I think, a very inspiring speech to the community. Once the storm had passed and Superman had saved everybody, because God certainly didn't, the priest then gives a speech about how it's hardship and the passing of seasons that defines who we are, and how we come out of these struggles is what makes us the people we are.
If Superman hadn't saved everybody, he would have said, "We have thoughts and prayers for all of the world."
Yeah, he would, but because Superman did save people, he didn't have thoughts and prayers. Everybody was.
He would have said, "God works in God has a plan.
He's got a plan.
He works in mysterious ways."
Before he goes and saves everybody,
to understand the plan.
I really do love like the talk that he has with Lana, and it's just again the cute kiss that she gives him is very opposite of the one she gave him before, where she like still loved him and wanted to love him, and maybe wasn't fully reconciled with the fact that he was going to go on and be Superman and do all these great things. But this is more of like a platonic, like sisterly kiss. That says like, and she just says, "Go make things safe, Superman." Like
I feel like her whole issue, the point of her issue is that, in my opinion, Clark was trying to figure out how to be Superman, and then this issue, Lana really reminds him like, you're Clark before Superman. And Machkin also makes that comment, and I felt like that kiss was kind of like, there wasn't any real passion in it. It was kind of just a they weren't high school sweethearts per se, but for me, it just kind of like was a moment of like trying to rekindle him remembering like who he was when they were really close and together.
Right. Yeah. Well, I do think one thing that Lana reveals in the narrative is that, you know, as much as being Superman changed Clark, him revealing he was Superman to Lana also changed Lana, because at the same time as his world opened up, it also opened up hers, because she realized, oh, there is more to this Earth than I thought. Like, people can fly, you know, so much more is possible than I imagined. And, you know, a lot of these issues have been about Clark's journey with that. But in this issue, we discover that Lana also basically lived that as well. Like, she also realized, wow, there's so much more to this world. And so she also left Smallville and had to go through her own.
And she like
says to reconcile
disappeared. She like disappeared from Smallville. No one in Smallville knew where she went or what. She just
she and her partner Linda opened a B&B in Vermont. we all know.
She goes, while I was away from Smallville and the world began to hear about this Superman, it didn't matter where I was, what country, what city, with Linda opening our B&B. I would hear talk from people questioning why there was such a man. People wondered why anyone with those kinds of powers and abilities, if it were true, would use them to help others and not for their own benefit. And I found myself smiling. And I think I love that so much because, again, it's just her going like, well, you don't know where he's from. And I do, you know, and to Patrick's point with the kiss kind of thing. Like, she's connected to him on a level that like no one else will ever be, you know, kind of thing. Even though he like moves on with his life and becomes Superman and marries Lois and all that stuff. But like, she understands him on like this level of like, I grew up in the same little town that he grew up in, and I knew what values he was raised with, and I know why there is a Superman in this world, you know, because like Pa Kent said in the first issue, like Patrick pointed out, like corn grows sour if it's like doesn't have time to root or whatever, you know. Like I love that they hammer that point home so frequently in this, but without like making it a bludgeon that hits you over the head. It's just a nice way of like really showing like who he is, you know, as a character.
Another art note,
Superman's plan to stop the dam is to just throw a bunch of bricks or rocks and trees.
Yeah, it's the beaver method. No, it's the beaver method.
Just chuck a shitload of rocks and trees at it.
Look, if it's nature's been doing that for centuries. You know, beavers do that. Why couldn't Superman?
It's fucking hilarious. Oh, the dam's got a big hole in it.
One art note I wanted to make, going back to the Rockwell kind of Depression era, 40s, 50s kind of aesthetic. The way Sale draws kind of small villains as these kind of gaunt, like leathery people is very sort of also feels super.
They're the salt of the earth. They work for a living, Al. You know,
they're out. Salt of the earth.
They're out in the sun and the harsh conditions.
They're dried up prunes, is what they're more pruned than man.
Yeah,
you know.
So Martha and Jonathan and Lana decide to cross a bridge right when a flood's coming. So that was
because you got to get out of town.
Yeah, you got to get
out of town.
At any rate, you know, flood happens.
It works out because they have an alien god.
He saves Pa Kent, cradles him like a baby, which is how you should fly with someone, by the way.
No, we've discussed that piggyback is the optimal.
Did they name the new dog Shelby as well?
Wait, do they call it Oh my god, is it the same? It's not the same dog. Did they recall it Shelby?
It's a puppy.
Clark says, "Where's Shelby?" And Ma Kent goes, "Clark, the dog. She's gone." Unless he just got confused, and it's a very subtle,
fuck! Did they rename it? Is it just Shelby Jr.? It's a different dog breed than what Shelby was for sure. Hold on, I'm trying to look back at issue 1 at a picture of the dog. It's a different dog breed.
It's not a different dog breed, but it's drawn very young in the puppy. If it is the same dog, Tim Sale did a very bad job. making that dog look old. Because when the dog perks up when he comes home, it looks like a puppy. It looks young. Is it the same fucking dog? Now I'm confused.
I'm trying to look back through issue 1 at any pictures of the dog. Oh my god, it is the same dog. It's the same dog.
No, I know it's the same. I know it's the same breed. But I thought it was like a puppy in that one shot.
It did look like a smaller dog.
I think it's just Shelby.
Oh, Shelby. All right, never mind.
So I take back all the touching things I said about
all the
Shelby
post-mortem
Patrick.
shit about Shelby.
Shelby's an immortal fucking dog. Maybe they did a Lazarus pit for Shelby, and that's why.
They could have. Yeah. Or Shelby died, and they got a new dog.
They just got an identical dog.
I mean, that's been done before. People do that.
They didn't want to upset Clark, so they're like, no,
they're like,
fine.
Shelby's fine. Clark noticed Shelby was looking old a couple of years ago. We should probably get a new dog. You should probably get a new dog. Just name it Shelby, and he won't notice.
You'll never know.
It's like when your goldfish dies and your parents replace it.
All right, but so after the flood and all the touching moments with Lon and his family, he goes back to Metropolis, a new man, gets a front page. So those earlier comments about Clark the reporter, he gets front page stories.
Yeah, Superman stops flood in my hometown. I just happen to be there.
And I do like this interaction with just a pissed off Lois. It's like, how the fuck did you get that story? And she just looks angry as shit.
I think it's like, how did you know where Superman would be, sort of thing. And it's like, not that he did. It's more like, I was in Smallville and he saved Smallville, so I was there and I wrote a story. Obviously, Lois. Some of us just make lucky guesses, I guess.
Yeah, he's like, I guess I'm just better than you, Lois. I don't know. With his little, but I just love how she's pissed off as shit.
Well, it's the same shit she did to him earlier. Furious. Man, Jimmy looks like a 48-year-old man in that.
He ages in dog years. Like Shelby takes age from
Jimmy's been replaced too.
Shelby gets younger and Jimmy grows older.
Every time they get a new photographer, they just dress him the same way and call him Jimmy.
Yeah, they're like, your name is. It's like, I'm a 55-year-old man named Tom. You're Jimmy now.
You're Jimmy now.
Dye your hair orange. You're Jimmy.
Anyway, Trevor almost dies again.
Trevor is still chasing kitties on.
Yeah, third separate incident that this. Where are these kids' parents? I mean, honestly,
he might not. Patrick, he might not.
In fairness, Patrick, it's just the one kid. Everyone else in this city seems to have their children under control.
Also, we've established that Trevor is, on the spectrum and probably needs special care.
I like how the Lexbot. We keep calling them the bots. They're humans in suits of armor. But I like how this Lex guy goes, citizen, and he's like, yeah, and that scares him off the ledge, basically. Like, it's like, we got the one where Superman saves him. We get the one where the Lex robot guy is like, hey, get the fuck back inside. And he's like, yes, sir, kind of thing. And then we get the one where he's like, hey, get back here. And he's like, whoa, shit. And then he falls off the fucking ledge. And then Clark's like, oh, I got you. I'm Trevor, but everybody calls me Trev.
It's like, what are you doing with that cat exactly? Why is the cat always running away from you?
Yeah, you have to wonder, why are these cats continually running away from you?
Why is this cat constantly running away from you?
What is going on? But he saves Trevor, and he's back, and he's fully realized as a Superman, and Lex hates it. Lex was
again, like, there's a greatness to this comic in the sense that, like, it answers that, like, natural disaster in the first issue, natural disaster in the second issue, but it doesn't happen in Metropolis. It just gives him the confidence to be who he is and go back to Metropolis and understand, like, there's no, like, big confrontation with Lex. It's a foreboding, like, what's going to become of them. Like, Lex even says, like, someday, you motherfucker.
It's setting up what
it sets the stage of, like, all the comics to come. There's not, like, this big Duke of that, like, fight at the end, and
I did enjoy how the ending climax isn't him fighting Batman in a suit or Zod or
and
Apocalypse or Dark
really
Side,
awesome.
whatever. It's
80-year-old Red Skull with his dragon gold.
Yeah.
It really this really is just like a love story to the idea of what Superman is supposed to be, and I think that's why I love it so much.
Yep.
All right. Well, we did. That was the 4 issues.
Speaking of recommendation.
Well, before we do that, do you guys? I know that we've.
Before we do that,
the fuck? Why? Like, why do that now, man? What's the point?
It's a
transitioning into
to a new thing.
All right. Well, I know we've been having audio issues with the AC earlier, but do you all hear like a buzzing kind of in your?
I definitely hear it. I mean, it's weird, but it's weird that I hear a buzzing because you've turned off the AC.
The Bechdel test. The Bechdel test.
Does this pass the Bechdel test?
The answer's probably no. This one doesn't. I don't think this one does. There's no two women. I don't think there's.
What about Lana? What about Lana and Martha Kent in the kitchen?
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
But are they talking about Clark?
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Let's go back.
They are talking about Clark for sure.
I mean, they are, but like,
what else could they possibly talk about?
Off panel, Toxin talked to Lois to give her that scoop on the interview.
That doesn't. We can't be doing that. We can't be doing that. I mean, off panel. Linda and Lana had a whole history with their Airbnb. So.
Oh yeah, they're definitely talking about Clark. Not a fit night out for man nor beast. Martha, has Clark talked to you at all about what's going on with him? Grab that pot off the stove, will you, Lana? They're having two different conversations. And then she just goes, "I'm sure when he's ready, Clark will speak his mind. I've got all the patience of a Kansas farm wife and the deep throes of depression."
Okay, this fails the Bechdel test.
Yeah,
it does.
This fails the Bechdel test. Sorry.
Also, that's literally that conversation, 2 panels. Not even a page.
Not even a page. This fails the Bechdel test. Sorry, Jeph Loeb. You got to do better.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's.
That being said, a lot of growth for Lana in this book, I think.
Yeah. I mean, again, I liked her narration. I thought it was a good.
The Lana we see in book 4 versus book 1 is a very different character, is all I would say. You know,
and I thought she brought good perspective to be the final POV narrator to kind of that perspective to Clark's growth was cool.
Yeah.
All right, recommendation. So I'll go first. I recommend it. Yes, read it. No context, just read this. It's an incredible comic. Even if you don't like comics, why not read this? Because it's great. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, I'll also recommend. Lately, I guess because the new Superman movie's coming out, there's like a lot of debate about Superman's, like, I don't know, not going to
who he is, like the character,
who he is as a character, as a person, morally. And I'm like, this is the book you should read to understand who this character is, because I felt.
And if we get an ounce of this in that new movie, I'll be like, good job. You know, like. This is so layered with like who he is and why he is and what he does and why he is the way he is. Like, man, if they even get like a pinch of this,
it's not about him fighting anybody. It's literally him just like saving people's lives and struggling with his limitations on he's not going to be able to save everybody, and just I have nothing but good things to say about this book. And again, I've read it 3 times now in the last like month and a half, so. Just keeps getting better and better with every read, so I recommend.
Just like Shelby, she just gets younger and younger every time.
I fully recommend this book. I mean, I recommended it to you guys for this show, but like, I mean, I read this back when it came out, and it came off the end of the Tale of Long Halloween, and it's a stark contrast to that book in multiple ways. But like, I think this just speaks so well to who he is as a character. It's not even funny. So like there's I mean, we've talked about it over the last couple of hours, but like this is like a quintessential, like if you don't understand who Superman is, like just read this and you'll finally understand it. Like Al said, like it's good for somebody that doesn't even like comics. Like I would recommend it to people that let alone people that are reading comics. I'm like, oh, you want a good Superman story? Here you go, read this. That's
even people who read comics.
Yeah. And probably haven't again, this book is I mean, it's well known. It's well regarded. Like, I would say it's relatively slept on. You know,
I'd never heard of this book until
it's really slept on. Same. I'd never heard of it. I'd never.
Like I said, relatively slept on, even if you read comics. So like, it's not that like it's again because it's a phenomenal book. So it's not like it's not a great book. I think it's just. Superman as a character and a really in-depth look at who he is isn't necessarily what people want to read all the time, you know. So like it's not like people are like, oh, read this one, amazing, and there's a lot of fights, and it's cool.
And I mean, speaking of, I wouldn't
recommend a lot.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to Zack Snyder.
Oh no!
Like that's one person who I don't think would really enjoy this.
Yeah,
I probably
would be like, I don't understand why is Pa Kent wanting Superman to be better.
Why isn't Pa Kent hot and dead? I don't understand.
Anyway, why hasn't Superman destroyed a city full of people yet?
The last thing I'd say is the art's spectacular. It's just so good. I can't say it enough. Like Tim Sale as a comic book artist is just fantastic in terms of pacing and knowing what to put on a panel, knowing what not to put on a panel is a huge part of like what makes a comic book read well. And he's just so good. Like it's like he doesn't even have to think about it. He just puts
he's amazing. Again, he's the god. I mean, the only criticism is he doesn't quite understand the dynamics of a train crash.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's great because that conductor should be dead.
That conductor would be dead.
By all rights.
By all rights, that conductor would be dead. Anyway, yeah, highly recommend. Highly.
Okay.
I think we did it. We won comics for the week.
We
boys.
did it.
We won it.
Comics.
We did it.
Good journey, Couchers.
All right. Say goodbye.
I already.